Hey y'all, I'm Logan Bennett and this is Old Boots and New Roots. Today I'm interviewing the very talented Patrick B. Ray. Patrick, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Um, we were just talking before the interview about a long day.
For those who may not know about you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
We'll start with my age. I'm 35 years old because folks are always wondering how old I am. I've been playing music for probably 15 years in bands and stuff. I started my solo career in 2019, but before that, I played in some other kind of local acts. Played out in California in some bluegrass bands, folk bands, and then I grew up in West Texas, out in the oil field, and played in a couple of Texas country bands out there. So that's kind of the trajectory that I came up in, and I've been releasing music now for a little over a year under my own name, and I got an album out last year, and just started a new set of releases this past Friday with a new single called Toast That Lie.
So what first got you into music?
Oh, that's a great question. What first got me into music? I don't know. It's just kind of been around as long as I can remember. I mean, when I was young, my mom I tell this story at shows sometimes. Um, I play that song "Getting Loose and Killing," or is it "Killing Time" by Clint Black. I tell folks when I was a little baby kid, my mom used to drive me around in her little Chevy Blazer in Odessa, Texas, blasting that whole album. And so that was kind of what I started on was Clint Black. He was my favorite when I was real young, and just kind of went from there. When I was a teenager, I got into hip hop, and then into punk rock, and then into bluegrass, and then kind of circled my way back around to kind of old country. I kind of quit listening to country radio in the kind of late '90s, and so I'm doing a lot more old style stuff now, playing a lot of classics and stuff. So.
Who would you say are your biggest musical influences?
Oh, my biggest musical. The first one that comes to mind is Guy Clark. He's an old Texas songwriter that grew up in a town that Monahans, which is just down the road from where I grew up. And yeah, a lot of his stuff seems like we went through kind of similar experiences, and the way that he puts together music and stories and words are just fantastic. And then I think um, yeah, Clint Black's probably one of the big ones too. I mean, that style of music that he made is really great. I've listened to George Strait ever since I can remember. Um, so he's been a big one for me too. And then some of the stuff that's influenced me more recently. People like Bob Wills or people like George Jones, um, stuff that's a little bit older than the stuff that I grew up listening to. Um, that's influenced me a lot more over the last decade. And then yeah, I mean like Tom T. Hall, a lot of the Cindy Walker's one that I've got a podcast with my buddy Chris Seymour. Um, it's about country music, and somebody asked me the other day who my favorite songwriter was, um, and I would say that definitely the top five songwriters includes Cindy Walker. She did a lot of songs. A lot of people don't know that she did. Um, My Window Faces the South is one that I really like of hers. Um, she did several hits for Bob Wills, and just that songwriting I think has not ever been paralleled, not yet.
Who would you most like to collaborate with?
Uh, who would I want to collaborate with? For years I've wanted to collaborate with Lloyd Maines. Um, I just really dig the stuff that he does. I, the things that the things that he's collaborated with folks on. Um, just I don't know what it is. They tend to pop. I think that if I were going to go, I mean, are we talking like alive or dead of any time or like
Anytime.
possible anytime? Who would I collaborate with? Man, I mean, I think I'm much more, I'm very much in the songwriter vein, and I think I'd really like to collaborate with somebody like a Cindy Walker or a Willie Nelson, not necessarily from a production perspective, but from a writing perspective. I think writing a song with Willie Nelson would be pretty cool.
So you mentioned that you grew up playing different bands. What all bands did you play with?
I started off in a band called the Chris Brazil Band out of Odessa, and I wasn't in that band very long. He found a better guitar player, which wasn't all that hard to do. So he got a better guitar player, and I went and played rhythm guitar with a band called the Treetop Flyers, who later changed their name to the Texas Treetop Flyers because it turns out there was already a band called Treetop Flyers, named after a Stephen Stills song that I still play to this day. Um, and then I started a duo project with my ex-girlfriend. We called that Passion Rita. We did that out in California. Played with the Edgewood Mountain Boys, which is a little bluegrass band out of California, out of West Union, California. And what else? I've been playing. I played the other day on bass, upright bass with South Texas Tweak, and played this past weekend with my buddy Chris Seymour on upright bass. And so just starting to start. I kind of went from playing with bands into a solo project, focused on that for a while, and then now I'm starting to branch back out and say, all right, well, I want to start playing with other people, trying to kind of diversify my exposure. So.
All those different sounds influence your solo music?
Yeah, I mean, one of the songs, actually the title track off my first album, Texas Man, was a song that I wrote for the Chris Brazil band. That was back in 20, or well, what was that, 2008 probably. Um, when in the Texas country world, if you could write a song about Texas and give it to a distributor and get it on the radio, so I wrote a song about Texas. And so did that, and then yeah, I mean, so a lot of the folk stuff that I was doing, like folk and bluegrass through the mid 2010s, um, definitely came through in the songwriting. I got a couple songs that I'm messing with now. Might release them, I might save them. That are definitely a little bit more bluegrass influenced. And so uh, definitely influenced my musical writing style. And also, I started getting a lot more into the Texas swing thing around that time. And um, and that definitely, I mean, I wrote a swing song for my last album, and it really, yeah. Um, One of the other things that I got into in the mid 2010s was norteño music. So I grew up out in Odessa, where we basically had three kinds of music. We had norteño music, we had hip hop, and we had country. And so that's kind of where all those influences came together in my life. And I actually, during the 2010s, I learned Spanish. So I was able to enjoy some of those songs a little bit more because I could understand what they were saying, right? And it's funny, a lot of people have started to do that kind of stuff. Like if you listen to Jesse Daniels' new album, he's got a song in Spanish. Uh, and then, people are starting to uh, do those types of songs now in the Texas country scene, which is pretty cool. I think, who is it, Wade Bowen or somebody has one called Ramon Ayala, which is one of my favorite norteño artists. So it's starting to make inroads, which is cool. I mean, that's Texas music is about that. I mean, it's about melding cultures, and that's part of our cultures. And here in Houston, where I live, there's more Spanish language stations than there are country stations on the radio, like by a factor of four. So I mean, that's part of that's part of country music, regardless of what you heard on the radio in the 90s, like that's part of it.
So you're talking about your album Texas Man. How did that come to be?
Well, COVID happened and I started writing songs. And I was like, all right, well, so I decided in 2019, or 2018, late 2018, that I was going to start a solo project. Um, That may or may not have coincided with the departure of my ex-girlfriend. I'm not going to say. But I decided I was going to do a solo project, and um, I'd kind of come up in the old school way of thinking, like, all right, well, I got to make an album, and so I put that album together as a project and released it as an album. Um, in hindsight, I probably should not have done that because of the way that the algorithms work. You know, they want you to consistently release songs. But I kind of put that together as a an exploration of the, I guess, the history. It's a pretty autobiographical album, right? So a lot of those songs are about me or about my friends or whatever. And so, gosh, looking back, it seems kind of self-centered to think about that. But the stuff that I'm working on now is a lot more conceptual, or a lot more, I'm also rolling in stuff that was written by other artists. So it's a lot less self-focused, which feels nice. I mean, I can sing about stuff that's outside my experience, and it kind of broadens my horizons when it comes to I guess song subject matter, which is nice.
I know there's a lot of dance halls out in Texas, and you said that has had a major influence on your sound.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that's when I'm writing songs. There may be some stuff that I write that's not really appropriate for that, but most of what I write is written to be a dancing tune, because I mean, this is something that I grew up doing when I was young. My mom taught me to dance, and then when I got old enough, I started going out and immediately started trying to learn how to dance. And nowadays, any chance I have, I go out and dance. And you can ask, I'm literally anybody that knows me, they will tell you that I love to dance. I love two-stepping. It is one of my favorite things in the world. And I love it so much I wrote a song about it. The song King of Houston on Texas Man is a song about going out and dancing. The whole song's about that. And it's one of my favorite things to do. And that's kind of the subject matter. It's like when I'm out there dancing, I feel like I'm the king of Houston. If I'm in Houston, now if I'm in Midland, I feel like I'm the king of Midland, right? Wherever you go, if you're dancing and you're out there having a ball, you feel like a king. So that's definitely part of my music, and I try to, that I try to get stuff out there that people can dance to, because at the end of the day, that's an integral part of the Texas music culture.
What is your favorite song performed live?
My favorite song to perform live?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so tough. I can give you like top three probably.
Okay.
Um, in that vein, "Take Me Out to a Dance Hall" by Pat Green is one of my favorites, top three, just because it will get people out on the floor. It's an easy song to play. I think it's a very well written song, and with the guys that I play with, they enjoy playing it, and it's just a really good time. It's one that'll get people singing, it'll get people dancing, and if you got low energy in the crowd and that song comes on, it's changing, man. It's like dropping the clutch and changing gears. I mean, you cannot not dance when that song comes on. Um, One of my other favorite songs to play live is one that was written by a friend of mine named Lee. He plays the band called Feeding Leroy, and they're out of Duluth, Minnesota. It's a song called Tennessee Devil, and I usually use that song as a sound check. It's a nice high energy song. It's a song about being out on the road, and it's not really. It's kind of like an alt country song. Like it's not a straight country tune. It's not, but it's just a really cool song. I haven't cut that one yet. I might cut it on this next set of releases. We'll see. And then number three is gonna be, what would number three be? Um, yeah, I don't know. I really like playing Amarillo by Morning. It's it's a classic. people hear it and they like trip over each other to get on the dance floor. And it's just, I mean, that song is kind of like Take Me Out to the Dance Hall. It will fill the dance floor 100%. And people just, they love it so much. And I'm there for them. You know, I mean, I like playing, but at the end of the day, I'm there for them. I'm there for them to have a good time. I'm there for them to dance. And, you know, and then I'll give you number four. My fourth favorite song to play live is something that somebody requests because it means a lot to them and something they really want to hear, and they come and tell me, hey, can you play this song? And then when I actually know it and I can play it. Because it's one thing for me to put together a set list, but it's another thing for somebody to come up and say, hey, I really love this song. Can you play this song for me? And I'm like, yeah, I got you. Let's go. And then just nail it. Makes them happy, you know?
What is the best advice you've been given in your music career?
Um, the best advice I've been given in my music. I just thought of one piece of advice, but it's more for guitar playing or playing live. Um, Actually, I'll tell you, yeah, the best piece of advice that I've been given in my music career is when you're playing, if you mess something up, just keep going. Because the only people that notice are your guitar player and a bass player. That's it. Nobody else cares. If you mess something up, keep going. You forget a verse, just sing the first verse again. It's fine. You know, it's not, obviously it's not perfect, but the, the crowd doesn't care. They're having a good time. You know, they're dancing. They're that's why you're there. So that's the best piece of advice. Once I stopped getting in my head about that, it made playing so much easier. And you stop being afraid on the stage. Like I haven't been nervous on a stage in like probably 10 years. Because it's just once you get that through your head, it's like even if you mess up, as long as people are having a good time, it's okay.
So you just released a new single called Toast That Life. Tell us a little bit about that song.
Yeah, so that song is one that I discovered. I don't even remember how I discovered it, but it's a an outfit out of Chicago that did that song. They're called the Western Elsons. And I don't know what I was doing. I was just like digging through Spotify, and I have a playlist that I put like cool new music or deep cuts or what, like whenever I find stuff that's really good country music, I'll put it on that playlist. And so I just go looking for stuff sometimes. And I ran across this song and I played it, and it only had this song was put out like I don't know 5 or 6 years ago, and it only had like 1,500 plays. And it's the only song that this band put out. And I was like, I was when I the first time I listened to it, I just remember being like, "Whoa, what was that? What? Who was that?" Went and looked it up. And was like, "Oh my God, where? Who is this? Who? What? Where did this come from?" And so I got to where I just listened to that song over and over and over, and it's just such a good song. And so when I was doing this last round of recording, that song it just got stuck in my head. I was like, all right, I got to record that song. That song deserves to be out there because at that time it only had like I said, 1,500 plays. Like, no, this song needs to be out there. And so I cut it, and it turned out so good that I wanted to make it the first release. And I wanted to come out of the gate strong with it, and people have been really really digging it.
So what's coming up next for this year for your music?
So I'm working on. So I've got another several releases queued up after that first one. The next one will be coming out, I think, on April 29th at the end of the month. And I've got another couple after that are already finished, mix and master. They're really good. The next one is one that was written by my friend Chris Seymour. He's also the guy that I do the podcast with. I'm working on the podcast. We're getting folks in, some underground country folks. We're getting them in as guests and just kind of talking about, you know, kind of like we're doing right now. But we we joke around a lot more. You know, there's a lot more beer involved, and we kind of hang out. So I'm gonna be working on that. I'm also gonna be doing a tour this summer up through Colorado, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, California, back to Colorado, and then back down here. I don't know how much time you spent in Texas, but it gets hot in the summertime, and I got to get out. So I'm gonna be doing that. I'm gonna be playing some shows up in Massachusetts and New York, maybe Connecticut here in a couple of months too, just right before that tour. And then this fall, gonna be hitting Texas hard. You know, the weather's great in Texas in the fall, and so I'm gonna really be trying to get into some bigger venues here in Texas and to start you know, maybe hooking up with some folks to do some teaming up to play some gigs. My buddy South Texas Tweak has been doing really good. I think we're gonna start doing some stuff together. Um, yeah, I opened up for Jesse Daniel a couple months ago, and I think when he comes back, I'm gonna try to get with him and try to do some more of that. Um, he's a great guy. His band is great. I actually got his steel player to play on a couple of the new songs. Um, yeah, so just trying to hit the Texas scene hard once we get back from the summer stuff and start to look forward to next summer where we're going to start trying to hit the festival scene. So it's kind of what's on the docket. You know, we'll be done with this next set of releases probably in November and start recording again for the next set. So
If people want to follow you, where can they find more information?
I'm on Instagram. That's Patrick_B_Ray. And I'm also on, let's see, I'm on Facebook, Patrick B. Ray Music. The easiest is probably just patrickbray.com. B, the letter, no period. Um, and if you go to my website, there's links to everything on there. There's links to Spotify, links to Instagram, wherever Bandcamp, or Bands in Town. Um, I put my shows up there. I've got like probably 20 or 30 shows coming up on Bandcamp right now, or sorry, Bands in Town. And yeah, so if you want to come out and see me wherever I'm playing, um, just keep an eye on there and come on out and see me.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Thanks.